Good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to Uncanceled on KCMO Day Weekend. 20 degrees below average. Oceans of Fun is closed. Nobody going to the pool. Gosh, where are all the global warmists now? Where are these people that this was all going to be over? The polar caps were going to melt. Hawaii was going to be underwater. Obama's house in New York or Massachusetts would be gone by now. Where are all these people? When we have these stunning events. This is the worst Memorial Day weekend I can ever remember, but that's going to be okay. We're going to find a way to make it great, and we all have some time off, so we hope you enjoy it with your family and friends safely, and remember those that have gone before us, both in service of our country and people in your own family. We've got a nice broadcast lined up for you today, including this question: why is Caitlin Clark playing in the WNBA? You've heard her name. You may not know much about the story. Why is she in this league? I first of all, I don't think she ever should have gone in and played there, but why is she? We'll explore that question because she got beat up in a game again last night. They're just picking on her and don't care for her much. J.J. Carroll will be with us at 10:30. This guy is terrific. He's a former deputy in charge of the United States Border Patrol sector in San Diego, and he believes that Joe Biden, through non-government organizations or the people behind Joe Biden's auto pen, selected 180 countries nationwide and brought in 30 million people through the borders. And a year into the Biden presidency, he resigned and said, I can't do this. I'm not allowed to do my job. There were 84 executive orders sent down to this man, and he's like, a year into Biden, he's like, I'm out. He is now a best-selling author and podcaster on this subject, and he is here with us today at 10:30. You'll be fascinated by what he has to say. And we'll check in with Mark at the end of the show. A lot of great topics. As always, we like to surprise him with those. We don't want to give too much away. So we have a terrorism problem in this country, and the Democrats like to tell you that it's domestic terrorism by conservatives, which is a complete fraud and a total joke. In fact, that's exactly what James Comey's new book is about, a MAGA extremist who becomes America's biggest threat as a terrorist, which is interesting because we see a whole bunch of liberal, progressive, socialist, communist, Marxist, whatever they are, terrorists on the left going after healthcare CEOs, Jewish people walking out of a Jewish museum, and many other incidents that have taken place over the last several years, including, the congressmen that were practicing their softball game, a justice of the Supreme Court, with a guy coming to his house to break into his house and get him. I mean, there's just been one thing after another with these liberal domestic terrorists. And that's what they have in the case here with the two young people that were killed in D.C. a couple of nights ago. The person that allegedly perpetrated this crime is Elias Rodriguez, 30 years old, from Chicago. He's never been to Gaza. I don't think he knows there is no Palestine. I don't think he knows the issue at all. He's been radicalized by political ideology. Daily Mail is reporting today that his dad, this always turns out, do you ever notice when somebody does one of these heinous things, there's a connection, you're just like, I'll be damned. And this is the one. The alleged killer's dad, Eric Rodriguez, was at the Trump speech at the Capitol in March as a guest of a Democrat Congressman, Chuy Garcia from Illinois. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. The guy's dad was a political activist, clearly. He was a guest of a Democrat, an anti-Trump, to the core dude. You're such a great anti-Trumper in Illinois. We love you, Mr. Rodriguez, so much. We want you to come to the speech. And he sits there and watches it, and the kid probably adores his dad and believes the things that his dad believes. Well, the Chuy Garcia's people saying, we don't know the Eric Rodriguez's family. Eric Rodriguez didn't do this. It was allegedly his son. There's always connections, and it runs deep within this party. And this particular issue is different than the United Healthcare CEO and some of the others because this is clearly anti-Jew. That's what this is. I'm not sure the guy who did this even knows anything about the issue. Like, I don't know that much about the issue, but I can keep score. I've been in sports my whole life. I know the scoreboard when I see it. What I don't see is Jewish people hanging outside Muslim centers killing people as they come out. I don't see that. We've had a lot of Muslim or Islamic extremist terrorism in this country. There's even more, obviously, in the Middle East and in Europe. The Prime Minister of the United Kingdom has said He needs to close off immigration in the UK to Muslims coming in because it's becoming a problem. The problem is summed up best by Charlie Kirk, who's with Turning Point USA. And I'll play a clip here, and it's a little long, but this is Charlie Kirk in the United Kingdom on their television with their anchor, their liberal people there, explaining to them why they cannot continue to both keep their country and allow Muslims to pour in open borders that our societies are not and will never be compatible. This is deep thinking. Listen to this from Charlie Kirk.
The question is macro Islam compatible with Western values? Macro. Of course it's not. There are three major reasons why. Islam does not believe in freedom of speech. Islam does not believe in freedom of religion. And Islam does not believe in separation of mosque and state. Those three things are antithetical to the West. In a Muslim majority country, most Muslim majority countries, you cannot criticize the Prophet Muhammad. In most Muslim majority countries, you do not have the same robust freedom of religion protections. And finally, whereas we in the West are very careful to try to intermix religion and state, they are commanded to actually go into the state and try to change the state to be more Islamic around the core pillars of Islam. And the last thing I'll finally say is, I cannot see a single Western country that has become more Islamic and has become a better place to live that is happier or freer.
By what metric? Just happiness, quality of life?
Everything from quality of life, from cultural cohesion, from whether people want to live there, prior to the native-born fertility rates.
Again, people watching this will say is your criticism of the religion itself or not Muslim people? Because there are British Muslims who have been born here.
But you don't have to caveat it all the time. I know you guys have to because you're British and all that. A culture ceases to exist when we don't have unified language. When you cannot talk to your neighbor. I'm not discounting that there are good individual Muslims. The question that we need to reckon with the West is Mohammedanism compatible with the teachings of Blackstone? Is it compatible with the legacy of Wilberforce?
All right.
And the great thinkers that have come from this country? And I will say, no, there's a reason why when you go to these Islamic countries that you're not going to see the equal protection of rights, that you do not believe in universal human equality, that you do not believe the same things that we believe in the West. And I think it's suicidal to import millions of them.
Yeah, and you know what, just on a passing point on that, it's most of the time, as far as I'm concerned, it's not even multicultural, because there was a school a few months ago during Easter which cancelled Easter celebrations out of respect for other faiths. So it's not as if the word multicultural and multi-diverse doesn't include Christianity.
No, and again, this is the red-green axis, and Britain is at the forefront of this. You have the Marxists that have infiltrated your government and the Islamists that are coming to your country. And when they combine together, they both agree on one thing. They have huge disagreements on a lot. They hate the West, and they want to see it broken.
That's exactly right. That's Ilhan Omar. She hates the West. She hates America. She wants to see it broken. She will not comment on this shooter and on this killing 2 nights ago. She walks away from cameras. But a couple of weeks ago, she said the biggest threat for Americans, United States citizens, is that, quote, we should all be more fearful of white men. That's Ilhan Omar. She's in our Congress. They're infiltrating the country. This country was not built for them. It was absolutely built for immigration, but it was built for immigration and assimilation. You come here because you love this country and this culture. And although it's not mandated, most people originally came here. They also liked the religion. They were Christians. When you come with your religion, and your religion is before your country, the religion is before your family, the religion is before anything else that you do, and you bring that here, and your religion does not believe in free speech, it doesn't believe in freedom of religion, you can only have one religion, and it doesn't believe in the separation of church and state, you're not compatible in the United States. Ilhan Omar and people like her can never be compatible in this country, ever. It's impossible unless they take their religious beliefs and put them behind their beliefs of being an American citizen. By the way, that's not allowed in their religion. You're basically out of the church. You're no longer a Muslim. You can't be a practicing Muslim. You're done. You can't put the United States of America ahead of your faith. They're not compatible. And Charlie Kirk spells it out right there perfectly. What we can do about this, I don't know. I mentioned yesterday on the show, this is you have a blind spot in your car, and I actually almost hit somebody on the way in today. It would have been my fault. I was cruising down 435, and I got a truck that's coming in, and in front, you're jammed in. You're like, I'm just going to go one lane over. I looked, I didn't see the little blind spot light on, and it's where it merges, and it's usually wide open. There's never any cars there, so I took it for granted. And I started to move, and there was a car. I didn't hit him. It wasn't any real dangerous thing. But we all have blind spots in life, and we have moments where we don't see something that's very easy to see. This one is in plain sight. We have a blind spot, whether it's in our laws or our Constitution in this country, that does not protect us from ideologies and people coming and taking over our country, using our values against us because they don't believe in them, but using them to their advantage and inciting and teaching other people things that are not consistent with being an American. And that's what we have here. You can't explain a kid that grows up in Chicago that age 30, his dad is some hardened Democrat at a Trump speech invited by a congressman that decides that the most important thing is to free Palestine, which I'm going to guess the kid can't even, it's a 30-year-old man. I'm going to guess he couldn't even find on a map where Gaza is. I'm all but assuring you he's not an expert, that this was just radicalization, that this is wrong. What they're doing to these, what the Israelis are doing to these people in Gaza is wrong. We need to free Palestine. And I've got, we all had that, especially if you're a guy. We got a lot of ladies listening, I know, but if you're a guy, young men are easily radicalized. We have something we believe in. Lucky for me, it was sports, rock and roll, and beer. And thankfully, at some point, girls. And it wasn't going and killing people because of their religion or where they're from. But we're impressionable. You've heard the term angry young men. Most young men can get angry over the littlest of things. It's actually quite natural for men to be that way. It's the way God intended us to be. But it was intended for good forces, not evil. And we've got all these people running around doing this. We have a Florida woman attacked a guy, a 72-year-old man this week for wearing a MAGA hat. She went up, picked a fight with him. She had a can in her hand, like one of those Monster energy drink things. And dude's got a MAGA hat on, and she goes up and says something to him, and she doesn't like what he says, and she pours her drink over his hat, trying to ruin his hat, and he tries to pull away from her. Then she crushes him over the head with the can, and he falls to the ground. She's been charged with 2 counts of assault. Who are these people? How do you just walk up to somebody triggered by a hat? That's a young woman that did that. Because of a MAGA hat? I mean, I like talking about this stuff. This is all really important to me. This is my life. I live these things. I love my country. I want us to be great. It just seems like the forces of evil on the other side trying to convince and radicalize and mobilize people to take physical action is frightening. And we should have seen more of this coming, because the last few years on that side, they've been running around saying it was going to be people on the right that were going to do this. And James Comey's writing books about it. And all of these, the fake Virginia thing that happened. And the insurrection where not one insurrectionist had a gun. What? It's going to be the right that does this? It's a terrible, terrible, sad story that's touched our community. I don't have the answer. We've got a blind spot in our republic. It allows this to happen. You can convince and teach and work with people all you want to radicalize them, and it's not really a crime to do that now, is it? Pete and I just talked about what happens at universities. There's plenty of it there as well. It's free speech, it's America, and it's still a very sad day. We will not forget Sarah Milgrim. 913-408-7957. This is Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio.
Kevin Keatsman is uncanceled and back on Kansas City radio, 10 to 11 a.m. on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
I hope you noticed the magical trick of radio. I used Charlie Kirk to make my point for me because he's way better at that than I am. He's a theologian as well. I mean, he knows like every religion in the world inside and out and understands how they conflict with governments, societies, and nations. I think he's brilliant on that topic, so I hope you enjoyed that. Much better for him to explain it than yours truly. Here is Mark and Gardner. Mark, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Good, Kevin. Happy Memorial Day weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks. I was listening to the monologue, and it was spot on. And I believe that the Democratic Party has become nothing but a terrorist organization. And there's sleeper cells, are people that just pop up and take these random acts of violence or protest, or they say that the Republicans use dog whistles. So they just call out for it right out front. They don't mince words. They say, let's fight them in the streets. And like that Christine Blasey pops up when there's Brett Kavanaugh hearing. I mean, I believe they're just a terrorist organization.
Yeah, I think maybe I'd call them a revolutionary group. And I think, Trump has said there's a MAGA revolution going on. I think we're the counter-revolution. I think we're going back to what America is supposed to be and was and what she was designed to be. I think we're the counter-revolution to their revolution. They've had control for 15 to 20 years, basically, changed so much in this country that MAGA, to me, is a counter-revolution. But these people are revolutionaries. They literally want to destroy the Constitution. They want it to go away. They believe that a new one should be written for a new age and a new era, and conservatives do not. So we're all just very different in that way.
I agree, and I was raised Democratic. My father was a World War II veteran. My mom, both Democrats. They wouldn't know the party today.
Yeah, and
it's just disgusting. I mean, I vote. I didn't. George Bush was the first Republican I voted for. When I finally woke up and saw and I take it back to the Vietnam protest. That's who's running our country today.
Right.
The people that were the radicals in the 60s, that were the ones, the Clintons.
And yet, great call. And yet now they're pro-war. Those people are now pro-war. It's crazy. You can't make this stuff up. Lance is in the Northland on KCMO Talk Radio. Hi, Lance.
Hi, Kevin. I was just calling regarding your debate with Patrick there, rather energetic debate yesterday. And I think the issue that I saw was that you're actually talking from two different definitions of the economy. He's looking at it from a GDP and production and, all the things that your traditional economists look for. But you're looking at it from a more classical definition, which is the good of the home. That's where the root of the word economy comes from. And so he's thinking everything that if you get lower prices and you can get more stuff, that's a healthy economy. But if you don't have a manufacturing base or a base where people can provide for their families and have the basics, what's it matter if you can have 3 TVs?
Yeah.
And I think that's where that disconnect is. And I think we just generally use different definitions for that debate. And when it comes down to that, I think maybe the point to him is, hey, man, the economy you're talking about would not have been recognized for the first 1900 years of existence. The classics, the Greeks, nobody would have recognized that as the economy. What you're talking about is way different.
Yeah, it was really a fascinating discussion. And just so everybody knows, after Patrick and I did what we did on the air yesterday, Patrick Toohey, the Show Me Institute, we talked for several minutes here in the studio. We went down the elevator together. We stood in the parking lot. We shook hands. We laughed. We changed. We're in agreement on so many things. He's a libertarian, and I guess maybe I don't know. I've had people tell me I am, but I don't think I am. I may be a conservative. I don't know what I am. I just know what I believe. And I check my bias right here and tell you right up front. My life has been revolving around sports forever, and so these stadium issues are important to me. And I want to keep these teams, and I want this to work right, and I really don't care if it's Kansas or Missouri, but I think competition is good, and we should be competing against each other, and I'm thrilled that Donald Trump is competing against the world. Today, he threatened a 50% tariff on the European Union and slapped Apple with a 25% tariff if they don't make iPhones in America. Now, this was not news to Apple. He told Tim Cook this a long time ago. So this wasn't news about Apple. He's just reminding them it's time to start digging some dirt and building these manufacturing plants, because if you don't build these things and make the iPhone here, we're going to slap a tariff on you. Trump's not messing around, and he's not messing around with the European Union. It's going to be a 50% tariff if they don't come to the table and work something out. I think competition is good. That's Trump on our behalf competing for our country. I think Kansas and Missouri should be competing for businesses, housing projects, and everything else on both sides of the state line. J.J. Carroll is up next. You're going to love this. We're talking border security on Uncanceled.
From the nation's heartland, it's Kevin Keatsman Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM.
Welcome back to Uncanceled on KCMO Talk Radio. I'm very excited to speak with our next guest. He's J.J. Carroll, former deputy in charge U.S. Border Patrol for 24 years in the San Diego sector. He's got a great book out. It's called Treason, the Biden Administration's Strategic and Malicious Destruction of America's Sovereignty. It is, of course, about the border. He also does a podcast called Truth with J.J. Carroll. We're pleased to have J.J. on the show. J.J., how are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you very much for having me on.
First thing, congratulations on a great body of work, not just with the Border Patrol, but this book that you've written. You are easily a great American who is very concerned about the sovereignty of our nation. Walk me back a little bit here. Tell me about your experience with the Border Patrol and, what you saw and when you thought, wow, okay, our sovereignty in America here is under threat.
I did 24 years in the United States Border Patrol, and I worked primarily in San Diego and the Arizona corridor. And my last year in the United States Border Patrol, I was deputy patrol agent in charge, and my last year was Joe Biden's first year. So I transitioned from the greatest border president in the history of America, Donald Trump, to the absolute worst in Joe Biden. So I witnessed the treason, and I call it what it is. It's treason, what Joe Biden's administration did to America's sovereignty. I watched 94 executive orders cascade down to the stations on day one of his presidency, obliterating the most secure border in the history of America. Let me give your audience just an idea of context, what I'm talking about. Under Donald Trump, toward the end of his career, end of his first term, we were averaging about 500, 600 arrests a day. That's basically nothing over a 2,000-mile southern border and 5,400-mile northern border. Day one of Joe Biden to the very last day of his presidency, we averaged between 5,000 and 20,000 arrests every single day. And we released every single one of them into America. That is like loading up the Chiefs Stadium every week to capacity and then releasing everyone in Arrowhead into America every week for 4 years.
So you did that for a year, and then did you say, listen, I'm not doing my job anymore. I can't keep doing this? Why did you decide at that point to depart?
I had been banging my head against the wall for almost 22 years. Because of the first 2 years of President Trump's presidency, remember, he had Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell sabotaging everything. And I get very passionate about that because those two men would not build the wall for Trump. And I watched my men, the men that I had control over, get rocked, get hit in the head with rocks, get surgery after surgery from fights and falling off cliffs because our government would not protect our nation. And so the Republican Party did that to Donald Trump. So after 24 years, I saw the writing on the wall, and I knew how I was, meaning I would never follow these unconstitutional orders, and I would begin to, and as I was, sabotaging their actions of releasing people. You cannot release illegal aliens into America. It's against the law. The Immigration and Nationality Act states that you cannot do that. So I knew that I was up against a machine that I was never going to win. So I did I believe, the honorable thing, and I said, I'm going to retire. And I'm angry about it because we had, and this is just my belief, and it's coming out to be actually true, that the 2020 election was stolen. I being a professional Border Patrol agent, we were within 6 to 9 months of his second term of shutting the border down completely. And Donald Trump has proven that on day one of taking his second presidency. He shut the border down on day one. That means Joe Biden and his administration strategically, intentionally, and purposely opened the border for 4 years to destroy America. And he has, and he's been successful in doing it.
And I know you stated that you believe 30 million illegal aliens have entered the United States from 180 different nations around the world, and that's where non-government organizations come in. Can you walk me through what you know about what happened under the Biden presidency, not just opening the border, but how they facilitate? We've learned about, like, most Americans didn't know what USAID was. We didn't know what USAID was. How does this work? How did the Biden administration work with NGOs and bring illegals into America? Thank
you for asking that question because this is the linchpin. The Non-governmental organizations are the money laundering mechanism of the federal government. So they use USAID. Doge through Elon Musk has proven this. Everything that I'm talking about now has already been validated. Everything I've written about in my books has been validated by Trump and Doge. What we did is we took tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars from USAID, gave it to NGOs, international NGOs, the United Nations, IOM, Catholic Charities, Jewish Family Services, HIAS, on and on and on. George Soros funded NGOs, and we gave them billions and billions of dollars to move 30 million people to the Mexican border. Then our government took the monies from DHS, funneled it, and cleaned it through FEMA. FEMA gave it to all the domestic NGOs that were just basically connected to the international NGOs, and we brought those 30 million people into the interior of America. That is the crime of the century. Our government funded our own demise. And if you don't like my number of 30 million, which I believe is almost conservative, then let's just go off of what the federal government admitted. They've admitted in courts of law and through FOIA and through their own website to bringing in 18 million people in 4 years. You don't like my number, you think that I'm a crank? Fine. Let's go off of what the government says, 18 million. There, I'm telling you and your audience, the federal government has admitted to right now 40 million illegal aliens are living in our country. And I am telling you through my data and the people that I know and the resources that I have, that it is 1 in 6 to 1 in 7 residents in America is an illegal alien. Thus, we get to a number of 50 million people in America are illegal aliens. Look at what our leaders have done to America.
J.J. Carroll's our guest. He's a former deputy in charge, U.S. Border Patrol in the San Diego sector. He's now the author of the book Treason, the Biden Administration's Strategic and Malicious Destruction of America's Sovereignty. He's also the host of a podcast called Truth with J.J. Carroll. It's not spelled like the lady's name. It's Carrell. If you want to find that anywhere you listen to podcasts, I think you'll find this to be very good. So what do you think about all these people that are here? We've had reports that people are scared. Illegals are scared. There's been some self-deportation. Some people have gone home. We've seen some caravans go across the border. What are you hearing from Border Patrol folks that you know? Are they seeing any of this, or are we to expect over the next 4 years that several million people are just going to leave on their own via airplanes or however that they're going home? Do you think people are going home, or are they all still here?
I believe it's a mixed bag. Donald Trump did the correct thing. He shut the water main off, meaning the flood, the invasion of people coming to America, closed it down to almost a non-existent dribble. Now the problem is the people that are here, the 50 million people that are here. And Donald Trump is doing everything he can. However, I think it's inadequate of what he's doing. And I'm the biggest MAGA, Trump and Tom Homan, who's the borders are. I'm their biggest fans and the biggest supporters. However, they need to ramp it up. And let me give you an example. We are averaging between 1,000 and 1,500 arrests and deportations every day from the interior. That means it will take us over 100 years to remove these people. Now, this is this is the why. Why is this so important? Right now, American women are not reproducing at the replacement level, meaning we're a dying population. And I write about this in my book, when you look at the people that we have brought into America, their birth rates are 2 to 5 times that of American citizens. This is a bad math problem. This is a demographic upheaval. This is not demographic change of race and ethnicity. This is a demographic change from citizens to non-citizens. And this is the why. The why is in 2030, less than 5 years from now, we will have a census, a national census. And if the Democrats get their way and they count every single person in America, they will flip up to 60 seats in the reappropriation of congressional seats in the House. 60 seats will go to the Democrats, and then it's game over. It's absolutely supermajority Democrat-run House. It's over, and then they will reappropriate the Electoral College votes from certain states to give to the higher populated states. Thus, the ones that have illegal aliens are normally all the blue states and cities. Well, this is how evil the people that have been running our government are.
It is. I'm no constitutional scholar or lawyer, but that just sounds illegal to me. And I know there's going to be a lot of challenges to this. That there's no way you can't appropriate representation in your federal government to people that are not citizens. This makes no sense. Is there any country on earth that does that?
No, none except us. And the Democrats are fighting. And then let's be very clear. This is a uniparty issue. The last 2 years of Joe Biden's term in office, do you know who funded everything that he wanted and even beyond what he requested? That would be Speaker Johnson and the Republicans. They funded everything. This is a uniparty. Our government is no longer a representative Republican government, form of government. It's tyrannical. And I know Donald Trump's there, and I know the people he's put in place, and I know some of them personally, and they're incredible people. We're talking about an administrative deep state of tens of thousands of people. We're looking at the Democrats are siding with MS-13 gang members and flying down to El Salvador for, quote, due process. We have been propagandized and lied to throughout our lives. Illegal aliens and even legal residents do not have the same constitutional protections as U.S. citizens. That is constitutional knowledge 101, and yet the Democrats continually tell us that illegal aliens have the same declaration and constitutional rights as us. It's absurd.
I feel like that's changing. It's blowing up in their faces. I mean, this thing of due process for an illegal alien gang MS-13 member is absurd. So I think people are starting to see through a lot of that. Now, that's no guarantee of anything. One of the things I'm really concerned about in the past week, we knew the Biden presidency was a fraud. We knew that he was incapable of really doing the job, and there were times that he just disappeared from public eye. We've learned a lot of stuff. I saw this thing out of this book today. They did a town hall with this guy a year ago that was closed off to the press. Nobody knew it was taking place. It cost millions of dollars because they brought in their own people for the town hall to ask the questions, and they never aired it, never released it, never cut any clips and put it out because he was so bad and incoherent that day. My question to you, and this is one Donald Trump's been pounding on now, he's talking about this auto pen and all the things that Biden did over 4 years that he may or may not have signed or even knew were signed. When you've seen what happened at the border, does it lead you to believe there was a group of people inside the White House, in the inner circle, that were running this thing and it wasn't really Joe Biden? Because there's nowhere in Joe Biden's history that says he would have done this at the border. I mean, there's nothing. It's almost like he either didn't know or they were pulling one over on him. Do you think other people were authorizing this, or do you think Joe Biden did?
I think Joe Biden had a hand in it on some level. He was incoherent, but he did make statements of open borders and unrelenting waves of immigration. However, I know that in the depth of my heart and my soul and in my intellect, from my experience, that the cabal behind Joe Biden, the Obama, the Clintons, the Susan Power, all those people, they conspired to create the chaos on the southern border in order to fundamentally transform America. Let me give you an example. Donald Trump is signing executive orders after executive orders right now. He has been planning this out for years. This didn't just happen overnight. The same thing with Joe Biden. He didn't wake up one day on his first day of office and begin to create executive orders. He had a team creating executive orders prior to him ever even running for office. And when he came into office, he signed 94 executive orders on day one, obliterating the border. And then he signed 296 executive orders the first year solely on immigration, opening the borders and demolishing. So that means that cabal of people made a intentional strategic decision to utilize the weaponization of illegal immigration to, quote, fundamentally transform America. Yes, I believe that this is treason, and Donald Trump has to get to the bottom of it, find out who was using the auto pen. Look what Newt Gingrich came out and said. They just discovered that they used the auto pen almost 3,000 times in one day in the middle of the night to sign pardons. That was Joe Biden signed. He was aware enough to sign almost 3,000 documents. Are you kidding me? So who was doing it? This is the greatest story in American history, the greatest crime. And because when we decide and make that evidence that, yes, this was an illegitimate government, guess what has to happen? Every single thing that they signed and did for 4 years now becomes null and void. It's contractually invalid.
Oh, that'd be awesome. J.J. Carroll is the host of the podcast Truth with J.J. Carroll. The book is Treason, the Biden Administration's Strategic and Malicious Destruction of America's Sovereignty. J.J., you're awesome. I'm going to encourage everybody to listen to your podcast and buy your book. This is such great information. I can't thank you enough for sharing your time with us today, man. And really, on behalf of our entire audience, we appreciate all the great work you've done for almost 3 decades now serving your country. You're a good man.
Thank you very much, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
All right, that's J.J. Carroll. Great stuff if you want to check out his podcast or read his book. It's time to give away some tickets now on Uncanceled. Alabama and Lee Greenwood at Azura Amphitheater tonight. If you want to go to the show, 7th caller right now wins the tickets, courtesy of Uncanceled and KCMO Talk Radio. The number is 913-408-7957. Uncanceled today is brought to you by bestofferkc.com, helping you leave the hassle behind. Over 10% of the houses that sell in Kansas City every year are non-traditional, without a realtor. There's no repairs, no cleaning, no showings. If this sounds like something for you, if you've inherited a home, or if you know somebody that is in a distressing situation, they need to get out of their home, they've got to move, and they've got to go fast, and you want to sell that house immediately without showing it, without cleaning it, without making repairs, bestofferkc.com. The number to call is 913-338-SOLD. That's 338-SOLD, or log on to bestofferkc.com. Here's where Mark Delatour and his folks are different than the other guys. They're not a franchise. They're not owned by a big corporation that's not from America even. Foreign countries essentially buying up homes in our area. They are local. He's in the real estate business. He's got all kinds of different things that he does within real estate other than just Best Offer KC. He's got a big staff of people in Blue Springs, members of our community, families that are affected by this great local business. This is legit, and they want to help other families when they're in distress, when they're in a time of need. That's why he started bestofferkc.com many years ago. Bestofferkc.com. Again, no repairs, no cleanings, no showings. They'll give you an offer. They have never reneged on an offer. Other companies can and will go back on their offer. Not bestofferkc.com. Helping you leave the hassle behind.
From Leawood to Liberty, it's Kevin Keatsman Uncanceled on 95.7 FM KCMO Talk Radio.
Congratulations to Mike in Pleasant Hill. He's the winner of the Alabama League Greenwood Tickets tonight at what we used to call Sandstone. Have a great evening out there. I think you're going to have a chance to be dry. It looks like all this stuff's hit and miss. The big rain coming overnight Saturday, or Saturday evening and overnight into Sunday. But there's chances all week long. You can look out the window and see that. There's clouds all over. There's all kinds of goofy stuff going on. Mark, I've asked the question, why is Caitlin Clark playing in the WNBA? We've got the Savannah Bananas in town this weekend with the Royals. Sold out. This husband and wife went $2 million in debt and said, we're going to get a minor league team and we're going to change entertainment and go start our own deal. They now have a contract with ESPN to be on television. Caitlin Clark could start her own league. She is the WNBA. This was a failing league that had never made a profit, didn't have any ratings, and nobody in the seats until she came along. And now they're letting all the other players and teams treat her like dog meat out there. She gets pounded again by this chick from Atlanta last night. Why is she in this league? Why doesn't she start her own basketball league?
I think that she grew up liking the WNBA, so I think it's kind of in her to want to elevate the league. That would be my guess. I haven't asked her, but
she could have been, and I don't know this, she could have come into this league the farthest left, most liberal athlete in the history of the world, and after a couple of years in this league, she's going to be all MAGA. I mean, literally, she's got a chick bullying her on the floor after the game, claiming that all the white fans that came to see Caitlin, her fans, are racists and were shouting slurs at the black players, which didn't happen. How long until Caitlin Clark just explodes and comes out and goes, when is this league going to take care of this crap?
it's a good question. I'm not sure.
I don't understand why she could literally start her own 8-team league easy, get some investors and get a TV contract. This is like when Tiger came out on the PGA Tour, except they didn't try to hurt him. The other golfers weren't trying to hurt the guy.
Yeah, they're not angling their shots at him.
Like, of course they're jealous that he's better, but my God, they all made money because of Tiger Woods. These women are not smart enough to know they're about to get rich and make money because of Caitlin Clark. You should be her best friend. If you became her best friend, you might get endorsements. I don't get it, man. There's something really weird going on in the WNBA. We have the lowest temperatures for Memorial Day weekend that anybody can remember. And how about this? Adjusted for inflation, the lowest gas prices in 22 years.
That's pretty nice.
Jessica says, why do they always talk about gas prices Memorial Day weekend? It's like every year. I'm like, I don't know. It's a barometer. People hit the road.
Yeah, usually they up the gas prices at this time of year because they know people are going to be on the road, but.
Did you ever do a Memorial Day road trip? Have you ever done that?
I haven't done anything too exciting.
We used to do that with the kids all the time. We'd find some place to go because, there wasn't much work. Sports was kind of slow. It's like, let's get away. We try to bail out maybe on Friday, extend it, make it 4 days.
Actually, now that you talk about it, we did go down to Springfield and went to their zoo a couple of years ago. So, yeah, we've done that.
There you go. That's what Memorial Day weekend's all about.
Yeah.
People hit the road and go somewhere. Did you go to that place that has the throwed rolls?
Yes, we had to go there. Lambert's.
You better have your eye open if you're eating there, man. You better be on it. I don't know if Bill Belichick is really engaged or not to this girl. Do we know yet for sure if this is true?
They claim it's true, but I don't know.
What's her name? Jordan?
Jordan, yeah. Jordan.
So Mac Brown is the former coach at North Carolina, and he's now commenting on Bill Belichick taking over. And he said, well, he should win. This is Mac Brown, the guy that's out that Belichick replaced. They gave him all kinds of money to pay players, and they lowered the academic standards at North Carolina for Belichick, which they would never do for Mac Brown.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible.
Bring anybody in you want. We'll cheat for them in the classroom. We just want to win football games. Yeah, of course, if they win the ACC, they still won't get a bye in the college football playoff, as the college football playoff has announced that they're going to pure seeding this year, 1 through 12. That means seeds 1 through 4 get a bye. Last year, it was the 4 conference champions got a bye. They've already dumped that. They want the SEC and the Big Ten to have all 4 of those byes.
Yeah, Arizona State would have been an 11 seed last year, most likely, instead of getting a bye. That's pretty lame.
But don't you think this is just the SEC and Big Ten flexing their muscle?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they want all the power.
We want and will have the byes. The Royals get no byes this weekend. They're playing the Twins. The Royals, the Twins, and the Guardians are all exactly 5 games back of the Tigers. It's a 3-way tie for second place. It's a terribly low bar, but they have to win 1 game this weekend.
Yeah, I hope they win the series.
That'd be great.
I'm being optimistic here, but with their rookie, he's been pitching well. Maybe they can sneak out a win on a Friday night. Who knows?
Salvy's favorite ballpark, coming off a big game on Wednesday. Let's go. But you got to find a way to win 1. You can't lose 3 to a team you're tied with in the standings. Have a great and safe Memorial Day weekend. The Vince Show is coming up next.